Metafix is a show that teaches you how to think in the metagame. I am not here to give you the answers, nor am I going to tell you how to win. Metafix teaches you how to play in the metagame and how to react around the metagame and what is in the metagame. If you're looking for the answers, try HC Realms, check the forums, they have all kinds of neat toys and tools and teams being brought up, and check the results of a lot of the ROC tournaments or any Worlds tournaments to see how teams played out and what teams were used for. I'm just here to help you think.
Amber's gonna hate me for this episode. She's really gonna hate me. Sometimes, guys, a power isn't the power it acts like. So sometimes a power is not a power, is what I'm saying, but it is a power. Are you confused yet? Good. Going into this episode, I was thinking while I was making some builds about how there's oftentimes a lot of chances to give characters team or abilities or powers that they don't usually come with, and it's a thing that's existed now for a couple years since the advent of the Infinity Gauntlet and other resources. Now other characters are sharing powers, etc. And there's of course that ruling that when you have a power or you can use a power, you have to choose which source of it you're using. But sometimes powers are so similar to other powers that you can use that original source and still use the original power that is very similar to. Now, allow me to explain this. And I'm going to explain this in the most simple way I could possibly explain it, and that is Rocket Raccoon's Brilliant Tactician power, I believe is what it's called. Or whatever this white damage power is. The way it reads seems similar to probability control, but there's a couple things. One, it isn't probability control. At no point does it reference the power of probability control. It just has a lot of very similar functionality. What that means is when you use his power to force a reroll, you now turn around and say, well, I've got, let's say, as for sake of an argument, you do have a named theme team with this Rocket Raccoon. You can now turn around and use a theme prob because Rocket Raccoon at no point used probability control. Did I break it yet? Excellent. Let's try another example just to help you along. Winter Soldier has a power that's very similar to a leadership that affects himself. But it isn't leadership. So if you happen to find a way to give this is the Winter Soldier course number 008 from Winter Soldier, the one that makes a sniper nest. A very vague example. King Thor has a very similar power as well. If you happen to give him leadership, he can still use leadership. It just, the effects of leadership will be normal, and his other power, which still isn't leadership, just works very similarly, will work in your favor. You want to try to... Now, here's the character that's most rife with abuse for it, and that's Nick Fury. If you, my friend, find a way to give Nick Fury outwit, Ion, Nick Fury can use his ability to force an opponent to can't use a power, and then on top of that, Nick Fury can outwit. This is the potency of powers that are worded differently but function similarly. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. This is a thing that you can try to abuse to your favor. The Rocket Raccoon thing I have tried with a theme team. You could do it with Adara. You could do it with the entity as well. These are things that you can really kind of work around. And this is one of those things you got to start thinking about when you're thinking competitive play is, here is the rules. What can I break? And this isn't necessarily breaking. This is just taking the fundamental ability and adding extra on top of that and doubling up on it. And in a lot of these cases, it does take some work to do it. For instance, building a named theme team with Rocket Raccoon is a little tricky when you consider that most of his keywords are generic. And unless you're using a Guardians of the Galaxy theme team, which isn't very competitive, you've got to find a way to use keyword manipulation. Though there are such things as the Central City Police Captain. There are some things that take soldiers and turn them into other keywords as well, both of which are keywords that he has. Warrior, I believe there's something that can turn warriors into a named keyword. Don't quote me on that one. I'm not quite sure on that one. But you get the idea that I'm getting at is you can turn a generic theme into a named theme and give Rocket the ability to reroll something twice. Give Rocket Raccoon a source of probability control, you have it. Give Nick Fury a source of outwit, now you're doubling up on the ability to counter. And one of the things about Nick Fury gaining the ability of outwit, his power specifically targets powers. Now you can start targeting with outwit things like abilities, flight, indomitable, sharpshooter, that kind of stuff. The kind of stuff that's obnoxious and you really don't have an answer to on Nick Fury going in. So, I'm hoping that kind of explained some of the mindset and finding ways around things. Because one of the things about playing in a competitive game is sometimes you don't like a rule and a rule is getting in your way, so it's time to find a way to break it. And that's part of the competitive build, the competitive circuit, is these characters all have powers and there's a set of rules, and the reason that the powers exist is to break the rules or make the rules work in a different way. So your goal now as a player in competitive Heroclix, again, competitive, I can't stress that enough, is you want to take those rules, throw them out the window somehow in specific manners. So I'm hoping I've got that little juice thinking, and yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Don't forget, guys, as always, thank you for joining me, and practice makes your team better.
The opinions and thoughts brought to you in Metafix are not meant for the casual game at the table. Married with Clix is brought to you by Majestic's Heroclix sales down Costa Mesa, California. Right now, they're in the middle of storefront change. In the meantime, don't forget to check out their eBay store. If you check the link down below, they always have great Heroclix stuff at fantastic prices, and they'll ship just about anywhere.